Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching from. I know I have an international audience, so can't leave you guys out. How are we doing today? Good to see some regulars. Good to be back. Another week, another stream. How are we doing? Arte, Sportcat, Football Weekly, George, Arman, Abdullah. Welcome to the stream, guys. How are we doing? How are we doing? Latio, welcome, buddy. Adrian, back from Hong Kong. How's your training going, my friend? Indeed, rest in peace, Christian Atsu. Indeed, sad, sad times. Good stuff, Tanoki. Welcome, mate. George, watching from your basement. I've got a garage, but no basement. If you said loft, I would have believed you. Football Weekly, I want to ask, who should I buy in goalkeeper? Wow, you're in a position where you need to buy a goalkeeper. Interesting. Who's your two that you've got? Abdullah, fine, but FPL-wise, not good. This is what we're here for, though, today. This is what we're here for. This is what we're here for. Throw them dilemmas at me, guys. Transfer possibilities, benching headaches. Let's talk FPL. Tanoki, time for Martinelli to haul now that I sold him. Probably. Although, to be honest, I think the move to Saka now is probably even more more promising now, no? If you can get to him, I think go for it. I think Martinelli's minutes definitely are going to be reduced now. We've seen 60-70 minute substitutions on the regular. Armin, so actually I'm thinking of rolling this week. Could you look at my team for any short-term changes? I could do. What's your name again in the... Well, maybe you're actually in the mini league as Armin. But what's your team name, mate? I'll have a look. George, wait, whose basement am I in then? Dangerous times, that's Sportcat. Luckily you didn't transfer Reece James and he's out of the squad because he's being rested. Indeed, sir. So goes back to my point on the comments, mate. I genuinely think that you should go Badiashile. You know, because of the UCL, we know that Potter already is a bit of a lottery with him, right? It's the Potter lottery. We know that. I think Reece James is so integral to Potter's plans to possibly win something or get far in the Champions League. Makes sense to go Badiashile. He's not in the Champions League squad for Chelsea, right? And he's cheaper. So I think it's the way you go. Tanoki, you also have Kilman and Bueno now. I bet they both start and keep a clean sheet. Well, I mean, Bueno's interesting, right? Because, you know, I mean, he's only 3.9 million. So it doesn't really matter if he doesn't get any minutes. But I'm a little bit disappointed that he's started to get a reduction in minutes just as we're close to a double game week. Football Weekly, you have Sanchez and De Gea. I don't necessarily feel like you need to rush and buy a goalkeeper, to be honest then, mate. I think De Gea against Leicester is fine. Both got home fixtures. Sanchez against Fulham is probably the play that I would go for, as I think we may concede against Leicester. Without Casemiro still, it's going to be difficult. But then I thought the same against Leeds and we didn't do it. So who knows? Adrian, you raced your 10k last Sunday, just under 1 hour meeting your target. Well done, mate. Well done. Congratulations to you, bud. George, Trossard starts today. Watch. That is a high possibility, I think, as well. Tanoki, well, you have Kilman and Bueno benched. Yeah. Of course. Abdullah, early Chelsea squad news. James Cucurella, Thiago Silva not travelling. Indeed. Yeah, I did see that on Twitter before I started streaming. So, yeah, interesting choices by Graham Potter. Does mean, I guess, that maybe Kepa's at a little bit more risk without Thiago Silva in front of him. James and Cucurella, I'm not really interested in terms of, like, from a defensive point of view. The work they do, they get caught out a little bit, I think, in the back line. But Thiago Silva is a huge miss. So maybe Southampton can get something here. You move to Saka already, Tanoki. Yeah, I think that's the play. Daniel, should I do Edison to Pickford and Odegaard to Saka for a -4? I mean, I don't really feel like... I mean, when did you get Odegaard in? Because I feel like people have knee-jerked him in and then they're thinking about knee-jerking him out because he's blanked after a couple of weeks. But I still think he's a very, very good pick against the Villa side that I think I can see goals in this game, to be honest, for Arsenal. So I don't really necessarily think that's the right route. Have you got anyone else to get to Saka in any way? And I mean, Edison to Pickford... It's a goalkeeper. I suppose he's doubling in 25. Kind of makes sense. If you need to, are you doing that move to free up the money so that you can go Odegaard to Saka? Mason Mount also not travelling. Interesting. Armin, your team name is Shark Team, 10th in the mini league. You really want me to take a look at your team? So does everyone, my friend. This is what I'm here for. Sportcat, you'll be back in a bit, mate. Have to do some stuff. No worries, bud. Doctor, Captain Rashford was a mistake, but guess who still got a green arrow? Well done, Doctor. Welcome to the stream, my friend. Adrian rolled the transfer last week. May I send you the squad here? Of course, you can do. Dan, shall we see from the... So shall we start from Arsenal assets? I told you guys before, a game against 7 Arsenal assets will start to blank. Listen, they have got a double game week in 25, though. I don't think we can just judge by 1 week that Arsenal will start to blank. I mean, I agree with you that there is potential now that they fall off a little bit just because of I suppose, look, they've had a couple of bad results, right? But it's just all come at once. I think the FA Cup against City definitely knocked them a little bit. I think their confidence got a little bit shook, but I definitely don't think that they're bad assets. I mean, a triple up now is maybe questionable, right? Some people are obviously already wanting to jump off Nketiah, but I still think double midfield is great stuff. Lazio, would you keep Patterson for now or transfer him out for Kilman? I think I'd probably keep Patterson for now, especially if you've got 3 or 4 defenders that you can play already. I think that's maybe a wait and see on the transfer because I think he's being played in the under-21s, isn't he, Patterson? So I'm not sure if he'll return for 25, but that's positive news for him. Adrian, thank you. It was 100% humidity, so I was steaming. I bet you was, mate. I can't imagine how much sweat was dripping off of you there, bud. But yeah, amazing, mate. Well done to you. You need 1 midfielder and you have 5.8. You have Odegaard and De Bruyne and Saka and Rashford. You have 5.8. You have Odegaard, De Bruyne, Saka. I mean, I'm not sure with midfielders this week because it's difficult where the blank is happening. So, you've got Matoma, of course, that's blanking. You've got Fernandes that's blanking as well. I mean, could you go Salah 1 week early against Newcastle? I don't think it's a really, really difficult fixture. They've looked a little bit weaker. Could you get to him at all? And then you've got the captain shout in double game week 25 for him potentially. George, thinking of rolling this week, either that or bringing in Salah. Still trying to find a defender you like. I think Everton might be a trap. Potentially, I mean, Tarkowski looks like the obvious route. Obviously, someone's mentioned Pickford in the chat, but you might be right on that. You might be right. It's something that I'm going to evaluate, I think, in 25. At the moment, my plans are Fernandes to Salah, Shaw to Tarkowski to remove the blankers and get some doubles in, but I may change my mind. Daniel, you have KDB, Odegaard, Matoma and Rashford in your midfield. Okay, so who did you decide? Okay, so Odegaard to Saka is what you were looking at. See, that's the thing. I don't think I would get rid of Matoma just yet. Maybe he's someone that you'd get rid of in the blank potentially, but then game week 27, if they double, you don't really want to get rid of him ahead of that. So I can see the dilemma. I can see the positive. I can definitely see an upside. It is an upgrade, in my opinion, of going Odegaard to Saka, definitely. Ederson to Pickford, it's okay, but like George said, maybe Everton defence, little bit of a trap potentially, but he is doubling in 25. It's potential. It's a potential. Start Gabriel or Dunk? I think I would start Gabriel, to be honest. When will I start considering my chip strategies? So I've kind of already got a rough idea in my head about what I'm going to do, and I think I'm going to dead end my team into game week 29. And what I mean by dead end my team is I'll transfer players in essentially that have got a game in game week 28, dead end my team completely, and then I'll probably be wildcarding in 29. I'll then bench boost or free hit in 34, and I think it's 36, right, is the last double. So I'm probably going to use my remaining 3 chips, which is wildcard, free hit and bench boost on the last remaining doubles. What do you think of Martinelli to Neves punt? Possibly. I mean, Wolves are doubling, I suppose. Neves on set pieces sometimes. Could be an upside there, definitely. Do I think Zinchenko will start? Yes, more than likely, I think. I think Ben White might be at risk. I would say, in fact, no, Tomiyasu definitely, but after his mistake, I think Ben White should be okay this game week, but I think we still will see rotation there. I don't think Tierney takes over Zinchenko, to be honest. I thought he had a pretty good game. Should have had an assist with Nketiah that missed the header there. I think he's still a very good asset. Should you bring in Saka and Tony or Kane and a 5.5 midfielder like March for his double on 27? That's to SJ. Should you bring in Saka and Tony or Kane? I think, well, Tony is blanking, so he's always a bit of a risk now to go for this week. Should you bring in Saka and Tony or Kane? I do like March as well. March and Matoma are probably my favourite two midfielders to go for the double 27 at that price point. I definitely like Saka. I guess it just depends who you're transferring out, really, SJ. Amit, what about Lewis and Bueno? I mean, Lewis was always a risk, in my opinion, was always a bit of a trap. City defence is extraordinary amount of rotation. I think you keep Bueno till 25 and just, if he gets some minutes, right, you just keep him. I don't think we need to worry about transferring him out or anything like that. Abdullah, Gakpo scoring last game, it was music to my ears. Indeed, you actually went for him, but I did mention Maddison as well, if you remember. And he did outscore Gakpo quite significantly, didn't he? I think he got a pretty heavy haul. Andrew, have you heard about Christian Atsu passing away? Sad news. Yes, indeed, mate. Rest in peace to him. Absolute legend and very, very sad news. So, Daniel, your team, Kepa, Ederson, Botman, Trippier, Shaw, White, Patterson, Andreas, Odegaard, Matoma, KDB, Rashford, Haaland, Kane and Nketiah. Do you need to get Saka this week? Well, I think he definitely, before essentially the other double game weeks sort of came around, I would have said yes, Saka was probably the captain shout for 25. Now that we know that, of course, Everton, Wolves, Liverpool and someone else I think are doubling, I just think it makes more sense to go for Salah personally. In your squad specifically, I'm not sure, mate. You've already got Odegaard. It's the situation where if you transfer Odegaard to Saka, to me, yes, it's a slight upgrade because of the penalties, I suppose, but it is kind of half sideways, right? I mean, Ederson and Kepa are a problem for you, Daniel, definitely. I think that you need to make a decision. Like, you've probably been on the worst end of the goalkeepers, right? If you've played Ederson ahead of Kepa, sometimes Kepa's outscored Ederson even with double game week. So it's, I think Saka's a positive move for you, but I'm not necessarily sure I would say he's a must-own this week for you. FPL Seb, hi Dan, only transfer that I maybe ain't going to do now is Shaw to Badiashile. What do you think about that move? I actually think that's 1 week early, but I don't mind it. I think that Shaw definitely could concede against Leicester, to be honest. And I think Chelsea, without Thiago Silva, though, their back line might be a little bit weaker. But I do like Badiashile long term because he hasn't got the rotation risk. And Potter seems to be favouring him at the moment. So I do like that move. Football Weekly, you prefer people to buy Isak and Felix. I do like them both as options, but Wilson and Isak have got a bit of rotation. I'd say Felix is probably the better of the two. So if you are in a 3-4-3 formation or a 4-4-2, for example, any sort of formation, I suppose, and you've got a cheap budget striker, someone like Mitrovic or Tony, and you want to remove them, I definitely think João Felix is the way forward. Jan Aigner, have you thought about a -4 next week instead of Tarko, TAA, Robbo and Kane to Darwin, Firmino, Jota? Would consider if Liverpool look better and Spurs bad again without Bentancur, then Darwin to Tony later. That's a potential. I mean, I do kind of like that. I think my first initial thoughts on it, though, is Trent and Robbo. Trent didn't get the assist, right? He did get the assist, but then didn't get given it from an FPL point of view. And that's kind of worrying from an FPL point of view. I don't know what the game's playing at, to be honest. It was a clear pass. But apparently it wasn't the intended target. So that worries me a little bit about going for Liverpool wing-backs. It's kind of making me think in general that defensive returns might be a little bit slimmer now, because any cross that comes into the box now, it's almost like we're saying they're not going to be given the assists. So I almost feel like a centre-back makes more sense if I was going to go for a Liverpool defender. But I'm just not convinced with them yet until I see more now Virgil's back. And then in terms of attack, Darwin and Jota are now going to share minutes, or potentially with Firmino as well. So that's where the risk is again for me there. I think Salah's the only Liverpool asset that I'm genuinely considering for 25. And Harry Kane long term, I know what you're saying. They are missing Bentancur, but I think he's so consistent overall. I know he blanked last week. I could knee-jerk a little bit, but I think that it makes sense to hold on to him. I don't mind the -4 that you've suggested. I just feel like I would rather not. I already took the -4 last week to kind of set my team up in a better position in 25 personally. Easy Shark, should you play Bueno over Tarkovsky? I mean, Bueno, I'm just unsure about his minutes, right? The problem is if Tarkovsky keeps a clean sheet, mate, and then Bueno only gets, say, 30 minutes, 20 minutes or something as a cameo, you potentially have lost more. I feel you play Tarkowski just because of the minutes at the moment. I think Bueno's just a hold, play him in 25 because he's a playing player and has a double game week. Even if he scores you 2 points, it's better than transferring him out. But I think this week you play Tarkowski. Amit, what about Lewis and Bueno? We've already covered that. Do you mean as in which to play, or do you mean as in who to transfer out? Adrian, your squad: Kepa, Ward, Trippier, Ake, White, Shaw. Ake and White, I guess Ake is definitely a bit of a problem area for you. Saka, Odi, Rash, Fernandes, Kane, Haaland, Bueno, Mount, Greenwood. You're thinking Greenwood to Nonto because you can sell Fernandes, Mount for Salah, KDB next week. That's not necessarily a bad move. I mean, look, Everton have looked a little bit better defensively since Dyche has come in, but I wouldn't say they're anywhere near where they need to be to survive. So Nonto makes sense to me. I guess the point here, though, is that what happens to your team, because you'd be shifting you'd have quite a lot of squad depth there. Ward is, of course, your second keeper, but you've got Trippier, Ake, White, Shaw in terms of defenders with Bueno, okay. Saka, Odi, Rash, Fernandes, plus Mount. So you've got 5 midfielders. If you could sell... So you could go Fernandes and Mount to Salah and KDB. Is that what you mean? Is that how much money you would have available to you? Because that's really, really good, I think. If you went Greenwood to Nonto this week and then you were able to sell Fernandes and Mount next week to Salah and KDB, I think that's really strong if you can do that. Abdullah, should you play Ake instead of Tarkowski, Trippier? I mean, City against Forest, I think maybe Lewis plays. I'm not sure that Ake gets the minutes. If he does, then he's a no-brainer to me. I think you probably play Ake and you maybe do first bench of Trippier. I'm not sure about Tarkowski, though. Who else have you got to play in terms of your defensive, Abdullah, or your defence overall? FPL Seb, you didn't notice I'm Sebastian Henry Seb. Yes, of course I did, mate. Of course I did. I can see from your super sus image on your profile, mate. I saw you'd renamed your channel. Doctor, you use chips on double game week. I use chips to hide from my crazy captain picks. The C is on a Newcastle player. Whew, damn, son. Where are you going? Trippier again? George, I went through in the cut by goals conceded, Dan. Oh, my word. What are the chances of that, mate? What are the chances of that? Well done, though, mate. Well done. Tanoki, am I the only one who doesn't rate Nonto? Like, good player, but I would rather play 2 strikers for an extra midfielder. So this is the thing. I think my personal view on a 3-4-3 is I would rather have someone like Ivan Toney or João Felix in that position. So I'm with you. I think a budget striker doesn't make any sense for my personal structure. I would definitely try to find the extra few million to play, let's say, Felix ahead of, I don't know, let's take Grealish out of the equation. Let's say Grealish is Andreas and my Greenwood is João Felix. I think that makes sense, right? But I agree with you. I'm not 100% on Nonto, but for Adrian's squad, if moving to Nonto for this week allows him to do Mount and Fernandes to KDB and Salah in terms of his money, I think that's really strong. FPL Seb, so my squad: Kepa, White, Shaw, Lewis, Matoma, Rashi, Bruno, Grealish, Nketiah, Kane and Haaland. On the bench you have Odegaard. Interesting. I mean, I'm not sure because of the way your squad is set up. I'm not sure I would play him ahead of any of them midfielders. Matoma's got a good fixture against Fulham. Rashi, Bruno, I think, is good against Leicester. Grealish against Forest. Potentially we see a bit of rotation there, but I would say ultimately Odegaard can't really replace them. I think he's just better as your first bench option. The only person I would bench there or consider benching is maybe Nketiah. The amount of big chances he missed, absolutely incredible in that City game. So I feel like maybe Odegaard gets the nod ahead of him. Could you choose Kane as captain? I could do. I mean, I've got the vice currently on Saka. Maybe I move the vice to Kane. But I think that Haaland, even if he gets reduced minutes of 40, 45 minutes, he can easily get a brace against Forest. They concede so many chances through the centre of the pitch. So I just feel like it's a no-brainer to captain him again. Start Dunk or Andreas? I think I would start Dunk. I'd back Brighton at home, I think. Kepa, Bueno, Shaw, Saliba, Lewis, Rashi, KDB, Martinelli, Kane, Mitro, Haaland, Ward, Trippier, Almiron, Pereira. Planning to roll. Any suggestions? I mean, if Mitro's got the nod, then I suppose, yeah, you may as well keep him. I would suggest maybe looking at moving him on. Have you got the money to go to João Felix? Can you go Mitro to Felix? I do like that because there's guaranteed fixtures in 25 and 28, although they're not double. Chelsea fixtures aren't too bad from 25 onwards, so I think that's a possible move. Martinelli to Saka, I think, is a good move as well. It is sideways to some degree, but I do think it's an upgrade overall. So I think there's a couple of things you could do there, bud. Football Weekly, sorry, too many messages now. We're getting there. The flow is happening. McAllister is one to watch. I mean, he's on penalties for Brighton. I agree that I thought he was possibly one of those underrated Brighton midfielders alongside March and Matoma. But since then, March and Matoma have kicked on much more than McAllister. So I've been a bit disappointed with him, but I would still say he's one to watch, definitely. Speaking of planning for bench boost, you probably beat your eventual bench boost score if you had just bench boosted in almost half of any random week. That is true. The doubles, though, the upside is there, right? It's just the single game weeks could be a play. I don't hate it, but I just think the doubles make more sense. What do you think of Kane captain? I think he's a good option. I think West Ham, at the end of the day, I do agree that Haaland minutes will be reduced. So, yeah, West Ham, potentially there's some goals there for Kane, I think. But I feel like Haaland will still outscore Kane, even if he plays only 45 minutes against Forest. Armin, you want Grealish in your team, but Ake is taking up the third City slot. Is it worth to go Ake to Estepinian and Martinelli to Grealish this week for a -4? I mean, do you think that Grealish is going to get the consistent minutes? Do you think he might not get rested for the UCL next week? I've got a feeling that Foden might play this Forest game, to be honest. I feel like Grealish might get a bit of a reduction in minutes this week. I do see the upside in bringing him in instead of Martinelli, absolutely, but I'm not sure I would do that this week, Armin, if I'm honest. I think it's a bit knee-jerk. I like Ake to Estepinian, though, if you want to free up the third City slot for later on or a different option. But Estepinian just looks phenomenal. So absolutely, even ahead of his blank, if you feel like you can bench him in 25 and get through it without having to sell him, then it's an option. But yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% convinced with those moves. George, the heads or tails work, Dan. Yeah, it certainly did, mate. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Seb, so I think Shaw to Badiashile this week is a good move. Southampton is one of the best fixtures you could have, and I think he's going to be my transfer next week anyway. So I think you go 1 week early then, Seb. I really think that move is fine. You know, I'm definitely going to be selling Shaw, I think, next week. Abdullah, when City last time played against Forest, Haaland scored a hat-trick and you didn't captain him. Exactly. So if there's any reason to captain Haaland, there is your reason. Adrian, the reason you're selling for Nonto, Greenwood is benched and you don't have any other moves you want to make. You're really tight, but you can probably do Fernandes, Mount to Salah or KDB and a 6.4 million mid. Okay, I see. I think what you need to look at, Adrian, is you need to look at game week 25 overall. So, okay, because you have Trippier, Shaw, Rash and Fernandes. Okay, I see. So you'd get... See, the thing is, though, I'm happy playing Greenwood in 25. So I can see your logic, but I actually just don't mind Greenwood just scoring me 1 point as a cameo appearance. I don't think Nonto gives you like that much upside if you're going to be having that many blankers in 25. Does it not make more sense to take out someone like Shaw and Fernandes to a better defender and Salah or KDB if you don't want Salah? I'm just not convinced that going from Greenwood to Nonto makes sense. Like, yes, he'll be benched, but the blank game week 25 is going to be a difficult one for managers overall to navigate. So just scoring 1 or 2 points from him, I don't think is a problem. I just think you might have to keep Greenwood, mate. Like, if I brought my team up on future planning, I can show you that I would be playing Kane, Haaland and Greenwood in 25. I'm not going to be selling him. It just doesn't make sense. It will ruin my structure later on. Seb, you don't think you need 2 free transfers because you think you're only going to do Fernandes to Salah and then you have 11 playing players. Rashid, Mitoma and Trippier bench. Very good. Very good, Seb. Sounds good to me. Tanoki, either have and hold or get after. In what sense? Sorry, maybe you were talking about something that I've said, but I get a little bit lost sometimes. Mukesh, should I sell Mitrovic? Give me best option for Mitrovic. I think if you've got enough money, I would move Mitrovic possibly to Felix. Felix looks really good. games in 25, games in 28. Not a double game weeker, but I think he looks really promising. George, Kepa, Zinchenko, Dunk, Shaw, Mitoma, Grealish, Odegaard, Rashford, Bruno, Haaland and Kane. That's my team if I can resist the urge to not roll. I mean, I really like the squad though, mate. I don't really feel like there's any surgery there that's needed. Of course, you've got... How many blankers have you got next week there? Of course, you've got Dunk, Shaw, Mitoma, Rashford, Bruno. You've got quite a lot of blanking players. But as long as you can navigate 25 through with a couple of bench options there, I think it's okay. Adrian, Greenwood and Bueno can be risky as well. But I wouldn't say they're risky. Because you've got to think the reason why they're in your squad now is to give you the budget enabling. You've gone with a 4.1, 4.2 striker and a 3.9 defender, so that later on you've still got the money for midfielders and other strikers. So if you went Greenwood to Nonto, that's 0.9 million extra, right? So you're going to have to try and... That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to try and navigate. That's a difference between going Fernandes to say Salah from Fernandes to only being able to reach Son, for example. Like the difference is quite significant. So I think there's no point in selling those players. It just makes sense to, even if they score you 1 or 2 points that week, it doesn't matter. Just see it through. You can't have the best team every week, right? Doctor, mark my word, this will be a very crazy week. It's the return of Pep Roulette. Indeed. Yeah, I agree. Everyone captained Haaland and he got benched. Same with De Bruyne. I think, though, that Haaland will get reduced minutes this week, Doctor, but I think he's still worthy of captaincy. I've got a concern about Grealish's minutes as well, but I still think, look, at the end of the day, he's worth playing ahead of Trippier. If he doesn't get any minutes, then Trippier comes on for me. He was referring to Estepinian. Okay, fair enough. George, Ollie Watkins. You have 10 players next week, but like 3-4 doubles, so you don't mind. Okay. Watkins, I suppose, isn't a bad shout. I mean, Villa against Arsenal, though, this week. Not sure. I think I prefer... Mitrovic to Felix would probably be my preferred move, I think, if I had him. Trishul, you have White, Shaw and Ake. Who do I bring off for Tarkovsky? I think Ake. I genuinely think that Ake could be a risk, but I still think if I was in your position, I would play him. Ahead of Forest, how can you bench him? I think you just keep Ake and you put Tarkovsky as the bench option. I don't think White gets reduced minutes this week. I think he plays because Tomiyasu played before. Sure, we could potentially concede against Leicester, but his attacking threat is there. I don't think you have to bring Tarkovsky in, mate. Adrian, this is why I watch you. Thanks so much. No worries. I'm going to... At some point, I think during pre-season, I'm probably going to do some kind of learning series, I suppose, to just teach people the basics of FPL through to the kind of intermediate level, maybe to an expert level. Because I made the same mistake when I first started playing. I felt like I needed to... If a player was this is a weaker option, I must do something with him now. And you end up having 13 or 14 good players in your squad, which isn't, in my opinion, the right way to play. It's much better to have maybe 2 budget options, 1 bench cover that's got a bit of value, and then 11 good starting players. But it's really team specific, so it's hard to kind of give people the right advice, I suppose. But I hope it helped, mate. Tanoki, return of Pep Roulette like it ever went away. Indeed, mate. It's always been there, right? Same for Potter Lottery. Armin, would you start Martinelli or Trippier? I'd probably start Martinelli. Even with reduced minutes, I think he could do something against Villa. George McGavin, you're currently playing 3-5-2, but probably change to 3-4-3 to get Tony for his double. Fair enough. That makes sense. Armin, any early Arsenal team news? Not sure if anyone in the chat can support, but I've just been answering questions. So I haven't even looked at Twitter, to be honest, mate. George, captaincy is the only reason you want to go to Salah early. You think he scores against Newcastle. I mean, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. I think if you want to do it 1 week early, go for it. Abdullah, 50-50 on Haaland versus Kane captaincy and you don't know what to do. Look, I just think that, you're probably chasing rank a little bit, no, Abdullah? The problem is that if you go against Haaland and he goes and gets a hat-trick in the first half, mate, it's just... he'll get benched after that. He will get benched after that. He'll get substituted. He won't score any more than 3 goals maximum. But I mean, I just don't see how you can't captain him this week, to be honest. We need to teach people the letter trick. Yeah. Anybody who's got Son needs to sell him, right? Just on that basis. 3 letters just ain't enough. Welcome back, Sportcat. Welcome back. Yeah, no, are you set on benching Trippier? Grealish might not play anyways. Exactly. So I'm pretty confident of just having Trippier first bench. So if Grealish doesn't get any minutes this week, I'm always going to play the favourable fixture, and that is Grealish against Forest. So I just think that even if he comes on for 30 minutes, he could do something. So I think Trippier first bench is fine for me. Jedi Stew, when you get rid of Walker next week, that's you done with City defenders. No more. Sick of rotation and disappointment. Welcome to FPL, sir. I mean, this is why I don't have them. The only person that I would consider from a City defensive point of view, I think, is Ederson. Genuinely. Like, it's just there's too much risk. Sportcat, you said to bring in Felix in game week 27, but I feel as if I need to bring him in earlier, but it may not work. Well, I do think that he's a possibility this week, but it depends on, again, like how your team is looking. I think when I looked at your team ID, and then the way that I planned it out was that you don't take hits. So if you want to get to him sooner, then go for it. I can't tell you what to do, but just my suggestions is always going to be based on not taking... No, in fact, there was one hit, wasn't there? I think that was this week. There was 1 -4 to be able to shift you to a 3-4-3 eventually. Like I've said, though, we've had this discussion long enough in comments and stuff before, but just don't ruin your squad structure for the sake of one player. It never makes sense. FPL said, yeah, so bench 2, Lewis, Bueno and Trippier. You think that Lewis will start because players like Ake, Kanji, Laporte and Walker will play in Champions League? Yeah, I actually think you're right. I think Lewis probably gets the nod ahead of Bueno. If I was in that position, I'd do the same thing. George, that's what I think about Kepa this week. He won't score more than 3, sadly. But we don't call him Kepa. Everybody forgets, like you mentioned last week, about the other part of his name, which I won't say on stream. Exactly, that's why he's doing bad. The only thing is now that it confuses me how Alexander-Arnold is struggling. Well, when you get assists stripped off of you, quite literally stripped from you, from FPL or official FPL, it's just, that's not going to work, is it? Kobe, welcome back, man. I haven't seen you for a while, bud. Which 2 would you start? Nketiah, Odegaard or Mitrovic? Which 2 would I start? Probably go with the Arsenal guys, no? I would start Nketiah and Odegaard. I think Mitrovic against Brighton, he's been struggling a lot recently. He's not been in any run of form. I know Nketiah blanked against City, but he had so many chances. Like, he's going to put some in the back of the net like he did against United, right? Tanoki, any bets on who is the next player who has never played left back playing there as an experiment? Yeah. Bernardo Silva again. Absolute scenes in my living room when Grealish scored. Both me and my dad's favourite player is Grealish, so me and my dad's celebrations could be heard across the country. Phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, it was a big moment, really, in terms of FPL for me as well, because if he didn't score, I think I would have been around 160k. So my red arrow was heavily reduced after that goal. But it come to fruition. I genuinely felt he passed the eye test, which is why I put him in the squad instead of Mahrez. You know, if Mahrez didn't get that penalty, Grealish outscores Mahrez and everybody says I'm a genius. So, little things, mate. Sportcat. Thing is, as I said, I want to have to go to a 3-4-3 formation to get Felix in. Despite everything we've said, I may take the risk and bench Matoma or Martinelli. I mean, I think you could get away with probably benching Martinelli. I don't think it's a horrible decision. It's just the time that you do it, there is always that risk, isn't there, of this is where he gets something. He hasn't returned in a while, but I think he makes the most sense to bench. If you really want to do it this week, go for it, mate. Adrian, yeah, this is my only second year playing FPL, and I've been learning to be more patient and just stronghold my team. Resisting hits to chase players, got Alma on post-World Cup and sold him and really valuing Kane. So I think, yeah... After 2 seasons was when I started taking it a little bit seriously. I mean, it was just casual for me the first few years. I was just kind of learning the landscape, understanding the chips and kind of doing whatever. It was only after the 3rd season that I started engaging with content. And to be honest with you, there is a lot of nuances in the game that aren't obvious on the website or the app. Like, you have to really search to understand how to play. But I think if you want to get consistent top finishes, it is sometimes a little bit boring. Adrian, that's the problem. Like, you can't have the best team every game week. You have to be patient. Like, you'll notice, like, across the season, if you follow me, whether it's through this season, next season, whenever, moves are always calculated. And this is why chess players do very well in FPL as well, because their moves are always 2 or 3 in advance. They're not so reactive. Sport Cat, oh no, we've already gone through that. George Ortega at left back. If only Haaland took that pen. Indeed, mate. Indeed. I mean, the triple captainers were very unlucky last week. You know, that would have been an extra 4 points with some bonus, 6 or 7 points probably extra. You know, I think it was only because he got a bit of a knock on his thigh. So I think I think Mahrez just at that point, because he was kind of running something off, I think if the penalty was taken later on, it would have been Haaland's. Your Chelsea bias is creeping in, even though you try not to. I mean, look, it's going to happen. You know, we watch football, we love football, we support the teams we support, and we want to have players in our FPL teams to double celebrate, right? I mean, I've got triple United. This is literally the happiest I've been in terms of having players in my FPL team for a long time. But like I said to you, it's all about like the long-term strategy, which is why I said bring him in 27. But it's up to you if you want to go early, mate. Mahrez ended up getting 1 point more than Grealish. First red arrow, I assume that means in 8 game weeks. Yeah. But I mean, even then, I saved £1 million by going Grealish over Mahrez, and he basically scored nearly the same points. So you decided you're not bringing Salah in. They have Real Madrid midweek. With how much you need him next week, you're going to wait to see if he gets injured or not. Fair enough. That makes sense. Abdullah, does anybody have early Arsenal team news? Please, anybody in the chat, fire away. I mean, I haven't seen anything on Instagram, but I can have a look. Excuse me. Let's have a look see if is team news and ticks posted. Smith Rowe apparently has arrived with the squad, so there is every possibility that Martinelli may get benched. Maybe Smith Rowe plays. Who knows? I mean, with Trossard on the mix as well, I think Martinelli owners might be a little bit scared. Armin, Haaland must have been fuming. Mahrez must have captained himself. I mean, I genuinely think it was the little knock that he had on his thigh. Honestly, that's why I think he's taken the penalty. I don't think we see that long term. I think Haaland is definitely going to be the long-term penalty taker. You can never have players in from the team I support. Who do you support, George? You may have said this before, but Sportcat, I think you'll do the transfers I suggested from Gameweek 25 and getting Bailey in for Mahrez and for my bench option for my midfield. I genuinely think that's the right move. It just, you know, if you adjust to a 3-4-3, you need to reduce one of your midfielders. So I think it makes the most sense. Like I said, I did a bit of planning in Plan FPL, with your ID, and that just made the most sense. Party not travelling with a squad, yeah, I've just seen that as well. Tanoki, you hope he's benched now that you moved off. Yeah, genuinely, I think with Smith Rowe, like, he wouldn't post that on Instagram if that didn't mean something. Do you know what I mean? I think Smith Rowe might be in the mix here. Your current team is Kepa, Trippier, White, Shaw, Mahrez, Odegaard, Matoma, Martinelli, Rashford, Kane, Haaland. So I think, you know, Martinelli's at a risk now. That's the only thing for you. So if you want to go for Saka and you've got the money, then maybe Martinelli to Saka makes sense. That was one of the moves that I suggested in Game Week 25 anyway. So it's still going to be a -4 for you next week. But maybe you go Martinelli to Saka. That's something I would consider, Sportcat, definitely. George, you support Palace. Well, I mean, Zaha is always in the mix though, right? From an FPL point of view. I know he's injured now, but I had Guaita as well for a bit. Armin, Reece James also being rested. Yeah, not in the squad at all. Thiago Silva didn't travel. Apparently Mount's not in the squad as well. But there we go. Right, I've not really stopped talking for the past 42 minutes. I'm sorry if I've not got round to everybody's questions. I know there were some individuals asking for me to look at their teams, but it's really difficult to keep up with both chat and do specific team reviews. So hopefully I've answered a lot of your questions, but this has been the quickest that I've seen chat move for a long time. So, and I've got a bit of man flu. I've got a cough and I've got a little bit of man flu, so it's like the worst week for things to pick up. But anyway, thank you for the support, of course, as always, guys. FPL said, best feeling is FPL is when City players score points. You was in Dreamland when Grealish scored. I bet you were, mate. That must have been a huge celebration for you. Yaneda, which order in terms of benching would I rate? Trippier, Bueno, Dunk, Gabriel, Shaw. Okay. So, top of the list for the benching down to the person I would start. So I'm kind of doing it reverse, I suppose. I would definitely bench Bueno. Then Trippier. Then Shaw, Dunk, Gabriel. So I think I'm backing Arsenal to keep clean sheet the most, Brighton second, United third. Then I don't think Newcastle keep a clean sheet against Liverpool, which is why Trippier's on my bench and Bueno's a minute's risk. I think that's how I would do that. Sportcat, my long-term defence is likely to be Trippier, White, Badiashile. I don't think that's a bad defensive line, though, to be honest. I think that's really strong. George, you wouldn't be surprised if Zaha leaves in the summer. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's likely, but where would he go? Do you think he'd stay in the Prem? Adrian, thank you so much. No worries, bud. No worries. Lazio, Cap Rashi or too risky? I don't think he's risky. I think his Old Trafford form is definitely there. I just think going against Haaland against Forest is always going to be a bit of a sticky situation. Depends on where you are. Like, if you want to chase rank, you want to go a bit differential like I've done previously, I don't hate it. I just think that it's a very difficult week to go against Haaland personally. Armin, no worries, mate. When the stream calms down, you can look at our teams. Yeah, it's just so difficult. Like, and when you say when the stream calms down, it's like as if that's an inevitability. It seems to have picked up a little bit today. So, morning, Harry. How you doing? Best midfield options for a maximum of 6.3 million. I would say, I mean, ahead of game week 25, it's a bit difficult, right? Because I think the best option really is going to be Matoma or March in terms of that budget midfielder. 6.3. I mean, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Because let's go 6.6 midfielders. 6.3. I mean, it's such a difficult situation with that budget. I think that if you can hold until game week 26 to make any move for a midfielder like that, then I think Matoma's a good option. Or March, but I just don't think this, at the moment, it's very difficult to get someone budget in, to be honest. You do have enough money to get Saka this week, then I think you do it, mate, to be honest. I think Martinelli might have reduced minutes. FPL Seb, you'll smash Nottingham 5-0. Haaland hat-trick, Grealish a goal and 2 assists. Lewis assist and clean sheet. Damn, that's FPL dreamland for you, isn't it? Omar, you don't know if you should start Nketiah or Odegaard. I would probably pick Odegaard over Nketiah, if I'm honest. Just because I don't think Nketiah is cutting it at the moment. Maybe Arsenal fans will disagree with me, but he's missing too many chances. Joe Davies, play one of Mitrovic, Botman or Walker. I think I would back Mitrovic there. I don't think Walker plays. I think he's going to get rested for the Champions League. Botman against Liverpool, I don't like it. If you're forced to play a Newcastle defender this week, I think you do play Trippier if you want to. But Mitrovic out of those three. Armin, Neves is a good shout that you mentioned earlier. Potentially Neves, that's a good option. You're right, Armin. I did have a think about that, actually. Good suggestion. Hi, mate. Sorry I'm late, but how are you? No worries, Daniel. Welcome to the stream, mate. I'm okay. Bit of man flu, bit of a cough, but we're getting through it. Non-stop talking's probably not helping the throat, but here we are. How are you, mate? Tanoki, I think stream is more hectic despite the lack of transfers because some big FPL YouTubers are off. Probably. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody else streaming, right? I literally haven't seen who else is. I think FPL Consult was on earlier this morning, I think. But I didn't see anybody else go live. But hey-ho, that's what I'm here for. Answering questions. Sure to Badiashile is done. Well played, sir. Well played. I think if you were going to make that move next week anyway, I do like that move. I think that's okay. Rashford or Haaland captain, Daniel? I think I'm going to stay with Haaland, my friend. I think Rashford definitely has potential. I think Kane has potential. Fernandes even. Saka. I think there's lots of captaincy options. But can I go against Haaland? I don't think so. I think he scores a brace even within 45 minutes and gets potentially subbed off. Sportcat, thanks for the advice. No problem, sir. Who do you think is going to get more points, Felix or Saka? I suppose to some degree, yes, because if you want to go to the 3-4-3 early, I suppose you can do that and just bench Martinelli, but that gives you maybe a little bit more flexibility now that you know Martinelli's a bit more at risk. Decision made, Rashi captain. Abdullah, good luck, sir. Good luck. Tanoki Raptor is off. Okay. Still, even then, right? Like without Raptor, without Harry. I mean, Andy's probably streaming, right? He always streams. Even then, I had, peak viewers here, like 25, 26 people. Still not as busy as it could have been, I suppose. So, but you bench Martinelli and do Martinelli to Saka and Tarkovsky for Cancelo next week, which means you still own Shaw, and then I will only have Matoma blanking. Okay, I mean, that is an option. That's if you go the Felix route, right? So I guess it just depends on what you prefer. Focal is streaming, actually, yeah, so he's definitely one of the most popular, right? George McGavin, Martinelli won't start, man flu. Do I think Haaland starts? Yes, I do. I just think he might get a reduced minutes. Good luck with Rashi captain. Indeed. Good luck, Abdullah. Good luck. I hope it pays off for you, mate, but genuinely, I think that I just can't look past Haaland. Mahrez or Odegaard in terms of to start them? Adrian, good luck, everyone. Going to have dinner now. Enjoy your dinner, sir. Enjoy your dinner and enjoy the games. Good luck for this week, Adrian. 10 minutes to deadline then, guys. So get your captaincy set up, your bench options, everything, all your ducks in a row. So I think streams calmed down a little bit. We've had a bit of reduction. So if I go for Shark Team, what was your and what was your options, bud? And we can just talk through like what you can do, I suppose. I'll keep my team on screen for now, but just let me know what you're thinking, and then I can I'll go to it. Your second account choice, Mahrez or Odegaard? I think Odegaard's the one that's nailed, right? Mahrez, because of Pep Roulette, is always going to be a bit risky. Same for Grealish, same for all the City assets. So I think I play Odegaard ahead of him. Tanoki just in time for FPL website to crash. It's been all right, touch wood, right? It's been all right. Armin, to be honest, you have no clue what to do. Okay, we'll talk through it in a minute. Thoughts on Evan Ferguson? Or Evan, even? I'm just not sure, because blanking in game week 25, potential double in 27, which may not happen or not. Undav's in the Brighton squad. Is he absolutely nailed? I think he's the better Brighton striker, to be honest. But does he share minutes a little bit? Not sure. I think he's just basically the same. He's a bit of a better bench option than Greenwood, to me. You're going to do the transfers I suggested, just in a different order. Yeah, I don't mind that. I actually don't mind that. Now we've spoken it through on stream as well, and because of Martinelli's risk, I think that's probably a good move to make. So, sounds like a plan to me. You was going to go Martinelli to Neves or Ake to Ben Davies. Right, let's have a look. I mean, I don't necessarily feel like you need to go for... I don't think you need to go to Davies. I think this week for you, I play Kepa. I play Trippier. No, I play Kepa, Ake, Gabriel, Tarkovsky and bench Trippier. Your midfield five are fine. I would say that you could do Martinelli to Neves, definitely. Have a look. That's an option, I suppose, because you'll get a double game weeker in 25 and Martinelli's minutes are risky to some degree. Haaland, Kane. Okay. I think Martinelli's kind of only really your problem point at this stage. I think Ake later on can be dealt with, but I think I play him against Forest. I do think he gets maybe reduced minutes, in which case, if he gets reduced minutes or entirely doesn't play, you've got bench options. But I think against Forest, I don't feel like you need to get rid of him. Difficult situation, I suppose, but I think Martinelli is the person I'd take out for you, bud. If you have time with no one else to look at, could use my team as some sort of talking point. I think my transfers are settled. Let's have a look at yours, Tanoki. What's your team name? I can't remember, bud. No, he's in my team. Do I start him at home to Fulham or do I start Trips? Oh, I think. Oh, it's a good question. I think I would I'd start Trippier. I think, mate. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about his minutes, mate. I'm really not. Like, didn't we see Undav start a couple of games? Random point. You might want to collect teams to look at. Very true. Remalicious. Right, let's have a look. That could be on the next page, though, right? Nope. I can't find you, mate. Where are you in the league? Random point, yeah, we said that, right? Seb, one transfer that I also could do is Bueno to Kilman, but is also a little bit sideways. Yeah, I don't think I like that move, to be honest. Oh, I can't see yet. Oh, I'm getting a 30th. Hold on. Interesting. I don't know why I couldn't find you, but Control F just didn't work. Okay, so Martinelli to Saka and Botman to Kilman is the confirmed transfers. Okay, I think that's positive. Getting rid of Martinelli now, I think, was a good shout. You're on triple Arsenal. The structure is a 3-4-3 overall. Okay. I don't mind this. I think overall, your squad's in a good position, right? Like you've got rid of one blanking player in Botman already. So you're going to have Trippier, Estepinian, Shaw, all blanking. But I imagine you're either going to sell Shaw or you're going to sell... You probably won't sell Estepinian now, right? Maybe too much value in Trippier. Well, it depends when you bought Shaw as well now. A lot of value in him. Not sure. Not sure where you go, to be honest. But you haven't got many blanking players, which is good. So I think you've set yourself up pretty well. Morto, what is your thoughts about Captain Kane? I do like him as a captaincy shout. I think he's an option. But my personal view is you can't look past Haaland this week. I just can't see it, even with reduced minutes. You're going Ferguson highest upside. Fair enough, my friend. Fair enough. I'm just not sure that he's going to do enough. I'm just not sure. I don't know if he's going to do enough in the minutes he gets, if I'm honest. That was the problem, really. Barnes or Grealish? I'd go Grealish. Even with reduced minutes, I think potentially Barnes against United. And just in general, I think Maddison's the better Leicester midfielder. I wouldn't go Barnes. How likely is Haaland to start? I think he starts. I think he gets 45 minutes with the brace. That's it. You know, he's going to get rested at least a little bit. He's going to get 60 to 70 minutes, I think. Can you check my team name, Team Nami? Yes, I will do, sir. You're thinking Shaw to Tarkovsky, which makes sense. I think Everton, like you said in the comments of my last video, right? It's probably 1 week to just evaluate Everton again. 3 minutes till deadline, by the way, guys. Let's just take a look at Seb's team quickly. Your transfer was Shaw to Badiashile. So, okay, you're going to be starting then Kepa, White, Shaw. I imagine you're probably starting Lewis instead of Trippier. Your Shaw has gone to Badiashile. You've then got Grealish, Odegaard, Fernandes, Rashford. So I think, because you've got Matoma, it's not a bad point, really. In terms of price point, you've got a budget midfielder. Playing him this week, I think it's difficult. Like, maybe first bench option and you play Grealish. I think Grealish may get reduced minutes. Mitoma's probably the more nailed of the two, but I think the upside for Grealish against Forest could be massive, even with reduced mins. So I think you've done well there, mate. I don't think there's really any advice I can give you. Like, Lewis might not play, but if he doesn't, then it's not really a problem. I feel like if you've put Trippier as the first option, fine. Martinelli is benched. Yeah, this is. I think that was always going to be the risk. It's always going to be the risk. Felix to. You mean Greenwood to Felix? I hope you didn't do Felix to Greenwood. Yeah, the other way around. Deitch might make them a false. He could do. So it's one to watch, definitely, for the Everton defence. I'm looking at Shaw to Tarkowski as well, but I think that makes sense. White might also be benched. Interesting. You've gone with Haaland, but really unsure. Well, mate, we've only got 1 minute to decide. So lock it in. I guess the thing is, the only thing I might do is change the vice captaincy, right? So I've just gone vice to Rashford instead of vice on Saka, just in case Haaland doesn't play. But I think captaincy on Haaland just makes the most sense. Barnes is actually such an underrated FPL asset. You owned him for a couple of weeks and returned every week. He's got 8 goals this season, which is the same as Maddison. Yeah, I kind of understand that, but I still think that Maddison on set pieces, doesn't he just make more sense overall? He's a little bit more expensive, but I don't know. Maybe I am undervaluing Barnes. Maybe I'll need to evaluate it a bit more, but I genuinely think Maddison makes more sense overall. And we're locked. And you went with Ferguson too. Well, good luck, Daniel. Good luck. I hope it does work out for you, mate. Like I say, my decisions aren't always right. That is the reality. So in game week 25, there may be a chance that now you have 2 players blanking, but I don't think that's a huge issue. Do you mean 2 players blanking that you can bench, or do you mean 2 players blanking in your starting 11 and a bench of blank players? Because there's 2 differences. Is Reece James out? He's being rested, mate. Yes, he's been benched by Potter. Benched by Potter. Well, not even benched, not even in the squad. Not even in the squad, guys. But it doesn't surprise me. This is the thing. It's just, this is what happens. This is what happens. Two players blanking in team and your bench is full, so only get to field 9 players. Interesting. See, I'm not sure. When I did the planning for the team, though, I'm not sure that's how it worked out. How has it got to that stage? Interesting. Something to think about, though, Sportcat, because 9 players I'm not sure about. We definitely were able to get you 11 players before when I planned with you before. And if you're captaining an Arsenal player, remember, guys, never back the early kickoff. Yeah, that's why I literally just... Do you know what? Last minute, I just moved the vice to Rashi, just because, like, that is the type of stuff that can bite you, right? This one, Haaland, captain. One second, guys. Boom. You might have got it wrong as you rushed. I can't see the team again, Sportcat, because it's everything's down now, right? Gandhi hyperventilating in the corner. Mate, it's going to happen, and Villa are going to win. If they do, then oh my God. That 12:30 kickoff, guys. May have got it wrong as you rush. Yeah, I think you need to just review back on what the team is looking like in 25, mate, because I don't feel like you should have that many blankers. Doctor, you're not doing any tricks. You captained Haaland and you bench boosted. Interesting. I mean, I can't see your team, Doctor, so I don't know who did you actually have on your bench? Who have you boosted this week, sir? Football Weekly, guys, advice, captain Haaland and make vice captain Rashford. Yeah, I think, look, that is what I landed on. I don't know if it's going to make a difference, but that's what we've gone with. You've sorted your blank game week 25. You don't need to take any hits and you can field 11 players. This is what I mean. I think that just a little bit of future planning. Certain moves could have happened this week, absolutely. But I took my hit last week on the basis that I won't be taking a hit in 25. So I think Jan Aigner on here was suggesting, one of the viewers was suggesting a -4 that did look okay. It's maybe possibly tempting that I do another minus. But I think I'm comfortable starting Sam Greenwood next week. Even if he scores me a point, I'm not really too fussed. As long as I get to bench Trippier, Estepinian and Rashford, I'm okay with this. So I also get to field 11, but they're not the best 11. So you've bench boosted Ward, Andreas, Mikalenko and Bailey. I mean, I don't hate that. I think that's probably a good week to do it. I mean, you know, you've got Everton against Leeds, possible clean sheet. Bailey, I think he could do something against Arsenal, definitely. Andreas against Brighton, okay, he's on set pieces. It's not a bad shout. Ward for save points, I imagine, more than anything. Because I don't think Leicester will keep a clean sheet. But I don't hate it, Doctor. But any reason why you decided to pull the trigger this week, though, rather than waiting for a double game week? I mean, you did take out Shaw a week early, but in the long term, hopefully it'll pay off. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. As I say, I'm personally going to look at selling Shaw. I've got a lot of value in him, but I just think he's got to go. I don't want to keep him above Trippier, to be honest. That's the reality. You would say, though, people with blanks taking hits from blank players to double players is technically net zero. Of course, considerations, you get stuck with them for subsequent weeks. That is a good point, but for my personal structure, I haven't got enough money to get from Shaw, Fernandes to like Salah and a double game week in defender. So Tarkovsky, Kilman, someone like that. And then also being able to upgrade Greenwood to even a Nonto. I can't do it. I haven't got enough money. And then, of course, it hurts you later on. So fielding the 11 players, if you're in a formation of 3-5-2 like me, and then you have to shift into a 3-4-3 because of someone like Rashford in your team, then and you want to hold them long term, which I assume most people do, you then have to worry about the fact of a benching headache every week moving forward if you sell Sam Greenwood or your budget midfielder, your budget striker, whoever that is. And that's where, for me, it just makes more sense longer term to just play the player with reduced minutes or whoever that might be. Could be Ferguson, could be Greenwood, could be Andreas, could be whoever. Like, it doesn't matter. Just Andreas might be on pens now. That's a good point. That's a good point. But I do understand your point, Tanoki. I think overall minus is it's the best time to do it. If you're selling a blank player for a double, it makes the most sense. Never mind, you can get 11 players. I thought so. I did think that, mate. Game week 25 will be Cancelo to Tarkovsky or Kilman and Martinelli to Saka. So team will be Kepa, White, Tarkovsky, Bueno, Saka, Mahrez, Odegaard, Kane, Haaland, João Felix. Very strong squad. Very strong. You use the bench boost just to shore up a good game week as you see yourself getting a red arrow next week. Okay, fair enough. I mean, maybe a bit of a short-term thing, but I think you could have held it. But sometimes it pays off, mate. Who knows? If Andreas does end up being on penalties, like Armin said as well, that's a great time if they get one. But effectively 9 as Bueno doesn't really play. True, but then it doesn't matter if he scores you just 2 points. 2 appearance points is better than 0, mate. Definitely more considerations for each case. Just a general point, since he was kind of calm since the double game week 25 was announced. No, I agree. I think it's given us a lot more options to navigate through it, right? Because I definitely was looking at my team thinking, how am I going to get through this without basically a couple of almost fodder players? So I felt like game week 25 for me was definitely going to be a red arrow guaranteed until the doubles were announced. Now I feel like I can navigate it pretty well. And I think most managers can, to be honest, without free hitting, which is a massive deal, because it means we can use chips in the bigger doubles, which is perfect. You think a bench boost is to cover for what you actually have been doing and saved up the bank. So Martinelli to De Bruyne was the transfer you made. Okay, understood. Whoever the Leeds interim manager is in game week 25 would be an absolute hero if he starts Sam Greenwood and he gets a return. That's what I'm saying. Could you imagine? Like in game week 25, like he plays, is it Southampton? Leeds play Southampton in 25, don't they? So, you know, what an opportunity. And if I'm not mistaken, from the Leeds games I've watched, when Greenwood comes on, he takes corners. Which, again, is like, it's such a small thing, but it could make a difference between, you know, scoring 1 point and 4 points with an assist, for example. Sportcat, do you think -8 could be possible for game week 25? I don't think you need it. I don't think you need it, mate. I think Cancelo to Tarkowski or Kilman and Martinelli to Saka is fine. I mean, who is the extra person that you'd be looking at? And why? Because those 4 points, I imagine, you've got to look at it that if you're removing either a blanking player or a single game week player let's take the two options. If you're removing a blank player for a double game week player for that extra -4, then I don't hate it. I think that's an option. If you're selling a single game week player for the double game week, the -4 is a little bit harder to justify because it kind of is almost like a -2. But I'm not sure. What do you mean you've totally messed it up? How have you messed it up? Football Weekly, why Ward? Who's played Ward? Do you mean as in, are you asking why I've got him on the bench? Or why he's in my squad? He's just, literally, it's a benching keeper, mate. I don't play him hardly ever. What do you mean Badishali for sure? What do you mean? I'm like a little bit confused. Isn't that... Well, because you haven't done the transfers I suggested, right? You've just done them in the wrong order. Is that why? Football Weekly, he's just there as a budget option. He's so cheap. Like, I'm not really going to be playing him, to be honest. Ward to ward off the bad FPL luck. That's it. Taking hits in blank game weeks if you had 5 game weeks in advance should not be happening. With all due respect, sort it out before. But this is the thing, Armin, right? There are people with varied, let's say, confidence in FPL that watch my channel. And the thing is, probably one of the biggest things I find from a lot of people's questions is that they don't know how to future plan. And I'm going to be honest, I think that with the website, the official FPL website that is, it doesn't make it very easy. I think they will improve the website over time. Like, have you noticed on the information pages now that there's, I don't know if I can show it on stream because of the website being down. Look at this now. This is much better. I mean, I can't show you, but the at the bottom, because of the way my screen's cut off, you've got the XG numbers, right? Oh no, they're all there anyway. So these are all on Fantasy Football Scout. This is how I look at different situations, right? So you can see per 90 at the bottom as a summary. Like, they are improving the website a lot more. So I'm hoping that they introduce something that allows managers to future plan, because that is probably the biggest difficulty for a lot of players. They don't know how to use the third-party tools that are free and available to them to navigate things like blanks and doubles. So I think it's the biggest talking point in FPL, to be honest, in terms of planning. Sportcat, because you brought Felix this week, you don't have the 2 free transfers. Badiashile for sure, so you have 1 extra player not blanking, but now you think about it is pretty dumb. But this is But I don't know what to say to you, mate. Like, this is the thing. You need to use the tools that are available. Like, I can give you as much advice as possible, but then if you're going to ignore the advice and do what you want to do, then I'm almost sorry that it's happened that way. But it doesn't. It's fine. You can still rectify it. I just don't feel like it needs to be a -8 next week. Just do the -4, but just prioritise who you want to prioritise in. So if you want to bring in Badiashile, do it. But if you want to bring in Saka, do it. And then I think Cancelo out needs to happen at some point for you because of the money. But hey-ho. I hope you can navigate through it, my friend. Remove Haaland from FPL and your life will be good. You need FPL to update so I can see what players I need to transfer out for next game week. My mind is too short-minded to calculate who's going to play and who's not. But, Doctor, do you know that you can use third-party websites to show what you can do? So here we go. Look, guys, I showcase this. I'm hoping that I can still show it even though the thing's down. Right, look. So this is my team for game week 24. Obviously, I've got the benching orders and stuff are all wrong. But, of course, look, this is how I'm lined up. This website is planfpl.com. All you need to do is you need to just put in your team ID. If you don't know how to find your team ID, when you go onto the points page, I can't show you now. When you go onto the points page, in the URL at the top, where it's got fantasy.premierleague.com, there is a number. Those numbers you put into FPL Plan or planfpl.com. There's other websites as well that you can use, and you can have a look at how your teams look all the way through to game week 38. So as you can see, navigating backwards and forwards between how my team is going to look. So I knew in advance of being able to plan for this blank game week 25 that my plans are Shaw and Fernandes out. I played Bueno ahead of Rashford. I've now only got, and I play, Greenwood ahead of Estepinian. I have 2 free transfers. So I'm able to do Shaw to, let's say, for example, Tarkovsky. And I'm able to do Fernandes to Salah. Now, a lot of people questioned, why was I using, or why did I go for Grealish over Mahrez? And this is the exact reason, because it gives you the live budget of all of these players on how things work out. So as you can see, I can do these 2 moves without taking a hit. So this is the thing, Doctor, Sportcat, all of the people that are asking for future understanding of their teams, this is the website that I use. And Armin, yeah, see, you've mentioned about the new website. I think we could talk about they can improve the website, adding XG and just exactly, so more clear for beginners. And this is the point. So this website is, I'll put it into the chat for you guys. It's planfpl.com. Mate, you're not causing me confusion. Like, this is the thing. This is what I use. This is a tool that I use to enable me to plan for the future. And if you want to be an engaged manager, I just feel like this is the best way. So Tanoki's the opposite. He doesn't want to use third-party websites. He just backwards calculates. So this is also a thing that you can do. You can look 3 to 4 weeks ahead of what your team maybe looks like and then work out which transfer you should be making when. And this is why I suggested the route I did for you, Sportcat, because ultimately you wanted to bring certain players in. I fulfilled that requirement, but then also put it in an order that made sense to optimize the team for each week by looking at this website. Okay, so Doctor, it might just be updating then. So once FPL is back, once the website's back, it probably interlinks directly to it. You will be able to use the ID for this thing. It's just because I've already put it into planfpl.com. It recognises that my ID exists. For yours, it's just because Fantasy's down at the moment. So give it another half an hour, and I promise you, put your ID into this thing, and it saves all of your plans. You can do multiple plans, for example. So here I've got, transfer plan game week 24. You can put multiple in here. You can put a new plan. You can edit your current plan. You can view what you want to do. So for example, you do things like, no Newcastle defenders for blank game week 25. You can specify what you're planning or what you're looking at and seeing what you prefer to do. I literally cannot recommend doing this enough, because FPL, if you play week by week, is always going to be very difficult. Tanoki, you needed 2 transfers to remove Botman and Shaw, kept the extra transfer, which ended up being used Martinelli to Saka. So that's what I mean. It comes down to that planning. Like, we can give you advice as content creators, absolutely. Like, I will give you recommendations based on sort of, you know, data, knowledge, eye tests, all that good stuff. But everything is team specific. And this is the reason why content creators say it, is because it is team specific. Like, if you're in a 3-4-3 structure, I don't want to suggest making a move for you if it's going to give you a benching headache when you're actually wanting to move to a 3-5-2, for example. So it's just, sometimes it's better to just have a look overall at what options you've got, and then suggest that to me, and I can help you along the way. Abdullah, last night your squad value improved 0.5 million. Yeah, I mean, there was so many things, right? There was so many price moves. If only you listened to me fully and rolled the transfer. This is tough. Sportcat, just don't look at it that way. Like, just, as I said, this is what I'm here for. I'll advise you, but you don't have to listen. Your move could work out. João Felix could go and get a brace today. If he goes and gets a brace, then you'll be the one that's laughing. So the order of my transfers that I suggested to you don't necessarily mean it was the optimal for the amount of points that you would score. It just made sense for where you wanted to be. And like I said to you, when you transfer people in, you've got to look at 3 to 4, maybe even 5 game weeks ahead. This is just how it works. For me, it's a fundamental of FPL. It's a fundamental of chess. It's a fundamental of any strategy game. You need to be 2 or 3 moves ahead. And this is what we're playing. As much as I love football, and, you know, it isn't just... this is just the way of the game. Like, it's just... This is it. You have to be patient, strategize, and do all this stuff, right? It's not for everybody, though. It's not for everybody. So I understand that if, you know, you're not interested, fine. You do find a negative solution, fine. If you're that way inclined, bud, look, you know, this isn't a, I don't know, psychology sofa. It's just take it on board, mate. Just take the advice on board, and then just whatever you do is what you do, mate. It's your team, bud. And Felix is an option for the next few weeks, precisely. So I think he could still score. He could still score you points across these weeks, right? Speaking of price changes, Ben Mee and Matoma price movement baffles me. Yeah, I agree. I actually think Ben Mee... I don't know, man. I think I'd prefer Pinnock, to be honest. You use FPL Team as your planner if you don't like FPL Plan. Exactly. There's lots of different websites. Like, all you have to do is literally Google FPL Planner. Even in school, they like to stop being negative. Well, listen, sometimes it's just... If you're that way inclined, you're that way inclined. It's not... this isn't me telling you need to be different. It's just in terms of FPL and long-term strategy, it's important. It's important to plan. There's just nothing more to it, really. But like I say, I've got plans for the channel, and I've got plans for video content. I think I'm going to do a proper full university series at some point. So I don't know when that will be. Like I say, I'm probably towards the end of the season, but I'm going to do a full beginner, intermediate and expert guide on navigating FPL for next season. It's a little bit too difficult to do at this point because obviously, as most of you know, full-time job, 2 little kids as well. It's sometimes difficult to create content from scratch. When I've got a template of content that's already created, it's a little bit easier to make. So like the team selections, I've already got the graphics pretty much nailed, right? I just have to move the players around. But when we're talking about a proper sort of, almost like a course, might take a little bit more time to create. So, but I want to give the community as many tools as possible ready for next season, because I do feel like I answer very similar questions week in, week out. So I'm going to try and almost put that forward for people to view and get some more knowledge. Yeah, I agree, Tanoki. I mean, Ben Mee blanking as well, it just doesn't make sense. But then this is the thing, is that people look at the points that players have scored most recently and they just bring them in. They don't think about the long term. Casual FPL players are the reason for price changes, not the engaged managers. The engaged managers are a very small percentage of the larger player base, right? Sportcat, thanks for the advice. And the website, you're one of my favourite FPL YouTubers. No problem, mate. Like I say, that's what I'm here for at the end of the day. I will give you the advice when you ask for it. And yeah, like I say, the websites like this are really useful. So do what you will with it. If you plan something in the future, mate, and you ask me for suggestions based on what you've planned as well, happy to help you. Happy to help you. You'll look forward to it, Tanoki. Yeah, I think there's a couple of ideas in the mix that I've got for the channel in terms of content. But yeah, like I say, it's something that I don't think many YouTubers have done. In fact, I don't even know if any YouTubers have already done it. But like I say, I'm kind of thinking along the lines of a university series, some kind of 3-stage almost course, right? Do them like 30 to 45 minute long videos, quite in-depth analysis of how you navigate FPL in general. But I'm not too sure how useful that would be halfway through the season, which is why I wanted to kind of do it or produce it possibly pre-season. You think price changes should happen on player performance? That would be interesting if they did that, but how would they do that? That's really complex in terms of if they used Optastats or they use certain things to justify price points. It's going to be very hard to predict, very hard to navigate the price changes. And if I need any help with thumbnails, graphics, DM me on Twitter. Here to help if you're too busy, and it actually would help to put some work, creative experience for your uni. Well, look, I think in terms of the university series that I want to create, then definitely there could be some help that I might need. Just because I think that 45 minutes long videos, the graphics might get a little bit overwhelming to create by myself. So I might take you up on that offer, buddy, but I'm just not sure yet on what I want the content to include at each level. So I kind of need to do a bit of work first on what I want for that. Because the thing is, like I said, with team selections and all the other thumbnails that I've got going regularly, I've already got a baseline. Like I already have a kind of brand that I've created myself. So I don't really need any extra stuff. But I appreciate the shout out. But yeah, definitely with the bigger series that I've maybe got in mind later on, I might need some help, bud. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Half of the 11 million people who are on FPL don't even change their team. Precisely my point. So there's not really a large percentage of people that play the game. Even then, though, most of the price changes are justified by the casual, say, 4 million players. You've got an engaged million. You've got sort of like a 4 million casual. And then you've got half the player base that pretty much don't even play anymore after the first few weeks. Tanoki, it would make sense because off-season for content creation is basically nothing for an FPL channel. Exactly. So I felt like it makes sense to prepare sort of new viewership because obviously nobody really searches for FPL content until July, something like that. So I was thinking try and create all the content ready, and then when pre-season comes for next season, release a bunch of essentially university content that people can literally just dive into, ready for the new season, because FPL just takes a massive peak in terms of its viewership in those times. So that's the plan. That's the plan. You always used to think when you was new at the start of the season, price changes used to happen because of player performance and their form. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense as to why that would happen, but Sportcat, you're not casual, very competitive on doing well in the mini league, but then you did mention that there's like forfeits and stuff like that in your league, right? So you've got stuff to play for. And there's people as well that have cash mini leagues, that play for money, that play for prizes, that play for all sorts of different things. So there's multiple reasons why. There is a prize for finishing top of my mini league, yes. I just haven't decided yet. My initial kind of thing to the community was, I'll get you a football shirt of your choice, right? So it doesn't matter which country you live in, whatever, I'll do something for the community just because of the support I've had in the first season. What I will do moving forward, though, is that I will have probably 2 mini leagues. Once this channel gets monetized, then I will have like a members-only mini league that will have prizes. And then I may just keep a free-to-enter, bragging rights, normal mini league where everybody can join. But yeah, I think that, like I say, I'm not monetized at all in any shape or form, right, with this channel. But I'm going to do that out of my own pocket to basically as a thank you to the community for supporting me. As we move forward and I get monetized, though, I probably will say, look, if you want to win something, let's do a members only one, for example. But we're talking about like it'd be like £2 a month member or something, isn't? We're not talking about like crazy amounts of money. Tanoki, good finish in this season to plaster on the thumbnail with massive bright red font as well. Yeah, a lot of people do that. That's the only time I've actually used the rank in the, I think in my thumbnail there was 1 week where I got a 500k green arrow, and I felt like that was significant enough to put on there. But as for finishes or like showing my rank on thumbnails, I don't know. I'm not really on that. Will I be your admin member, Dan? Potentially. I mean, like I said to you before, I think you've asked several times, Abdullah, right? You've asked several times, how can we support the channel? What's going on? With plans, or what am I going to do? Hopefully I'll do a Discord membership program, all that good stuff. But I'm still a long way off, guys. Like, even after doing the channel for like 7-8 months, I still haven't got a large enough community yet, or I'm not monetized to be able to give you that stuff. But I will definitely do it as the support grows with the channel, right? Where am I aiming to finish overall in the season? Good question. I think I would be very, very happy with a 50k finish. A top 100k would be okay for me, but a top 50k finish would be the best I've had. So that's where I would like to be. Armin, you're definitely someone who plays for a higher overall rank and looking to place top 100k this season. You are close and placed 101k last week. Very nice, Armin. Very nice. When am I going to do Discord? I need to set one up. This is the thing. I'm not very good with it. You will be there, Dan, very soon. We'll see. We'll see. I'm just, I'm a steady Eddie, mate. A Discord for discussion could be good when the channel gets larger. Yeah, definitely. I think it makes sense, because what I would do then is I would probably do half stream and then half kind of Discord stuff. So I would come off of YouTube, and then all of the members that exist within the community will jump onto Discord, and we can just have a chinwag. Like that to me would be really beneficial. Plus, it'd be good to talk to some of you anyway. Like I don't hear you, right? I just literally look at a screen sometimes, so it's a bit lonely sometimes just talking to a camera, right? Apparently, Gameweek 27 double is in danger. Yeah, Ben Krellin tweeted about it as a possible risk. That will make a difference probably to certain moves I make. But I don't think it's too much of a problem for us, right? It was Palace and Brighton, wasn't it? Doubling. Or you could use a Discord for quicker image transmission. That as well. I mean, just in general, I feel like having that will be much better, because some people ask, like, oh, can I tweet you my team and stuff like that? And I'm just not very good at having, multiple things open on a web page. It would make more sense to have Discord. And that's it. And I also would like the community to help each other as well. So as the community grows, there's a lot of people that are, FPL veterans in here that come here and also give advice. Like Tanoki, you're one of them, right? You come in here and you literally give advice to other members when you can see I can't always see all the questions being answered. So having a community all engaging and talking to one another, I think would be very, very good. Martinelli's on the bench. Yep. He certainly is. He certainly is. Are you ready? White gets the nod. Not necessarily a veteran then, Tanoki, but somebody that wants to actively participate in supporting other members, right? Or other viewers. That's what I'm talking about. So having a Discord, I feel, just makes sense. It'll be the natural progression path of the channel. But anyway, there we go. Look at that. Smith Rowe is in the squad, but Martinelli benched. How about that? Zinchenko got the nod, which I felt that he would. There's Villa's 11 as well. Bailey's not actually in the starting 11. Interesting. Maybe he's someone that we look at in terms of we need to look at an alternative for you then, Sportcat. You benched him for João Felix. Well, that's a perfect situation for you then, really. It would also be a bit easier as well, because talking on Discord would seem more casual. Yeah, that's the thing. I know that, let's say, for example, up until the deadline, I'll stream on YouTube. There could just be some, or maybe I do an hour on YouTube earlier and then an hour on Discord. So I give the members, that kind of more personal touch for that final hour. So maybe I change, let's say if it's an 11 o'clock deadline UK time, I start my YouTube stream at 9 till 10, and then I'll do a Discord chat from 10 to 11, for example. So there's lots of options, right? And I think that's the natural progression, like I say. Nketiah to score, you think so? You're definitely a data nerd, though. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, using the data for FPL is definitely a big plus. So, you know, if you can evaluate a bit of data for some of the community, mate, absolutely. This is why I'm saying that the community can benefit itself in some ways, and that's what I'm trying to build, right? You could go Pereira as well, absolutely. Similar cost, right? Perfect. You just took out Martinelli, told us to never trust the early kickoff. Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you think about Trossard starting, though? I think he might do some damage. Could push the stream to before midnight for some of the later kickoffs too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I think... So what you're talking about the 8 o'clock deadlines for the UK, right? So I could do them a little bit earlier for people. But that's what I'm saying. It just makes sense to try and benefit the community as much as possible. How much is Trossard? I think he's 6 point something. Not 100% sure, but he's 6 point, maybe 5, 6, 6. Armin, you're such a data nerd as well. GCSE in economics and geography has come in hand. Very nice. Yeah, I think that's another point as well, right? What I do for a living, I suppose. Like, I do analyse a lot of data for different projects, and it's all IT based, but I think that also just gives me that, I don't know, a little slight edge, I suppose, on being able to recognise when a player looks good. Yeah, 6.6. I thought so, Seb. But like Grealish was a prime example. Lots of people maybe questioned me going for him, as Mahrez seemed the obvious pick. But having a look at his data and his numbers was really quite promising. And that's what helped me move to that decision. Because I was like, well, I need the money later on. I don't want to spend the money on Mahrez now. I need a cheaper option and I want a City doubler. Went for Grealish and it paid off. So again, that's something that I want to include in the university series, is kind of an understanding of where you can obtain that data and then use it to get an advantage. Trossard might be a good pick since now Arsenal is under pressure and Arteta opts for him. Potentially, but I still think he's a bit of a minutes risk from an FPL point of view. Do I think that I'm going to play more fantasy football games? For now, Seb, just the official fantasy is enough for me. I did have a question from somebody saying, do I play So Rare, for example? I don't play So Rare. I did try Ultimate Fan for a little bit. I played UF for a little bit, but I wasn't too keen on it. I just feel like, I don't know, one's enough for me. I'd rather be an expert in one rather than a jack of all trades, if that makes sense. Definitely need a few weeks to see. Yeah, and I think we need to see the minutes overall first, but it's a good shout. It's a good shout. I don't play Champions League. I tried it before. Serie A fantasy, I'm just not good enough with Italian football or international football to do it. I played the Euro fantasy for Euros. I didn't play World Cup fantasy. I did quite well in the Euro one. I think I got top like 4 or 5k, something like that in the Euros. But I didn't really like it. I'm going to be honest. I like some of the rule sets, but I didn't like it. I enjoy the main FPL game much more. You think we could see a week where Trossard might take the other week over Saka, the other wing over Saka? Potentially. I mean, did he play on the right for Brighton ever though? I only ever recall him playing on the left-hand side. Doctor, if you need help with the Discord setting up, I can help. You're a Discord nerd and you spend most of your day on there chatting. Absolute winner, Doctor. I'm going to take you up on that, my friend, I think. Because just in general, like setting up the bots and all the different things, I had a brief look on YouTube. I've actually got a server. It exists. I just haven't set up any of the channels, any of the automation, any of the roles, anything like that. I feel like, yeah, I need a bit of advice on how to do it, to be honest, because I'm definitely not the expert. Saka to be rested with the Europa League may not bring him in. Potentially, we'll see. I think he's too important, though, for the Premier League. I think Saka's too important. So I personally don't see him getting rested unless he may get some reduced minutes here and there, but I still think he plays most Premier League games 70 minutes plus. He can play both wings. Interesting. I don't think I've ever seen Trossard play on the right-hand side, mate. But yeah, that will be interesting if he takes Saka's place. What do we think about Villa's lineup anyway? We've spoken a lot about Arsenal. Mings back in the squad. Moreno starting over Digne. Potential option. Matty Cash also starting over Ashley Young. Coutinho in the starting lineup as well there. I think, he looked quite sharp actually when he was substituted in. And Champions League fantasy isn't that competitive. You get 2 transfers per week and half of the weeks you can use chips. But definitely a good start for beginners transitioning to FPL. Makes sense. Makes sense. You've been part of the mod team in some servers. Nice. You come across as like a bit of a kind of a modder, to be honest, in terms of like just how, I don't know how you've spoken in the community so far, to be honest, Tanoki. So again, as the channel grows, absolutely I will need some of you to be mods in the YouTube channel. I'll need some mods in the Discord, like all that good stuff. And eventually I'm almost certain that we'll grow to that point. But I'm definitely going to need your help. If you want, I can set up a server, make some roles, and then an option is to gift the owner to you. I mean, look, Doctor, if you want to do that, then feel free to. Do you want anything for your time, though? Because, don't spend hours and hours customizing it and then just give it to me for nothing. Thank you for the offer, but it's up to you, mate. If you've got the time or you feel like it will benefit you, then absolutely. But, don't feel forced to do it yet. Because the reality is I will probably wait to set the Discord up fully once I get monetized, which is a little while away. It could be another 6 months yet. Sportcat, reminder of your team: Kepa, Trippier, White, Shaw, Mahrez, Odegaard, Matoma, Rashford, Haaland, Kane. You're still stunned the form Rashford is in. Mate, it's a wonderful, wonderful time to be a United fan. Not the one calling the shots, but have some experience with creating a system for Discord mod structure. Nice. Again, it just goes back to that. I need a bit of expertise, I think, in the mix, so that I'm not just managing it myself. Admin some of the FPL servers, or some of the servers. The Discord server could be nice. Yeah, no, I think I'll have some of you involved. For sure. And you can change your captaincy in the Champions League fantasy during the game week. Yeah, you can make substitutions as well, right? Because it takes the same form. I think the Euro fantasy took the same format. And I just didn't enjoy it as much. I felt like it was quite easy. So finishing in a top 4 or 5,000, I felt was really quite simple. But yeah, I've just never been a fan of the UEFA fantasies. When you realise Rashford has scored more than double the goals Chelsea have scored since the World Cup, yeah, he is on fire, isn't he? He is on fire. You hope that Odegaard stays quiet because he's on the bench. Who did you play ahead of him? Didn't I say that maybe you should bench Nketiah? I can't remember what we said in the end, Seb, to be honest. You've obviously played Matoma then, right? Right, guys. I think on that note, we've gone way over the deadline. Nearly another 2-hour stream, to be honest. But calling someone a mod online is probably not a compliment. Fair enough. But you know what I mean, though, is that the way that you've kind of, I don't know, just the way that you've navigated some of the chat sometimes. I just felt like, yeah, this guy looks like he knows what he's doing. In terms, I think there was a couple of times I've had some people spamming in the chat, and you've been like, calm down. You just said certain things that I just think, I don't know, it just made me feel like definitely this guy's had some experience of modding. But that's the thing, it doesn't necessarily mean strict rules by being a modder. I just mean in general, like, I don't know, just literally, please don't take it as a not a compliment, because it's just literally just some certain things I've noticed that you've said in the chat. But it's a good thing, mate. It's a good thing. People need to be like that sometimes. Did you ever play World Cup Fantasy? No, I didn't. But I don't know. I was kind of in two minds. I wanted to play it, but then I also wanted to take the break because my son was due to be born, and then he was born during the World Cup. So it gave me a break from content creating for a month, which I felt like was needed. Your mids, Matoma, Rashi, Bruno and Grealish. Okay. Fair enough. Well, I need Odegaard to do something, Seb. So this is where we differ, sir. Tanoki, yeah, you're kidding about that. Good stuff. The last thing I want to do is upset you, mate. But Jedi Stew, you're off. Thanks for an informative stream. Good luck, everybody. Good luck, sir. Thanks for sticking around. Syed, absolutely. Rest in peace, Christian Atsu as well. One more time because very sad times. Absolute legend. But yes, listen, guys, it's been a fantastic stream. I'm going to go and spend time with the family now. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the game week. I hope it goes well for you. Fingers crossed for those all-important green arrows, guys. I hope your transfers worked out if you made any. And obviously, yeah, I'll be back next week with a live stream once again for the blank and double game week 25. We've got definitely a team selection video during the week that will get released. As for another video, I don't know. Again, it just depends on time. Now my family are back from Poland. It's it's a little bit difficult sometimes to create content. So thank you very much for joining the stream, guys. Really appreciate the support as always. Thank you to any of the new subscribers that have stuck around as well. Really appreciate the support. And I will see you in a video very soon, guys. Thanks for joining. Take care. See you later.